Hello, and welcome to Simple Man Sermons, the preachings of a simple man called by God to share the good news of Jesus Christ. I think today's sermon really is good news. You'll find in Deuteronomy 26, "So you shall rejoice in every good thing which the Lord your God has given to you and your house." Again, "So you shall rejoice in every good thing which the Lord your God has given to you and your house." It's a commandment from God. So you shall rejoice. So you shall rejoice. Now, I must mention that there is a time and a place. For everything there is a season, even a season for sorrow leading to repentance. You'll find that in the second book of Corinthians. And you'll find, as I alluded to just now, in Ecclesiastes, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to build up and a time to weep, a time to laugh and a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stone, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. But there is a time to laugh, there is a time to dance. It is a commandment, you shall rejoice. Of many of the great men of faith in Christianity throughout the centuries that I have studied, many of them have gone through whatever they call it, going through a valley, going through the desert, a time of spiritual dryness. I certainly have gone through that. Again, for everything there is a season, and faith is the assurance of things hoped for. But there is a time to rejoice. There is a time to rejoice. It is commanded of you. You shall rejoice. Does Jesus not say, "Be of good cheer"? Jesus is the Word, the same Word that we just read, all the words that we just read, the words of God. Jesus is the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Beginning of the Gospel of John. John 16. "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Again, there's a time for everything, and Jesus is saying right here, you will have trials. Just look at the life of Jesus. Jesus certainly had trials and tribulations. But here he says again, and if Jesus says it, you are to do it. He tells you, be of good cheer. As Jesus says here, he has overcome the world. We may go through trials, but the war is already won. We have victory. Look to the end of the book. Look to Revelation. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. No more seasons of mourning and sorrow. No more times to weep. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. We have this assurance. We have this hope. We ought to rejoice because of it. We are commanded to rejoice, so that we can, as it says in 1 Peter. "But in your hearts reserve Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that is in you." When people look at you as a Christian, people who are not Christians, or people who are Christians, they should see that hope that is in you. Whatever you're going through, there is a time and a season, but they should see hope and joy in you, because you have an assurance that the world could never give, and for that we ought to rejoice. Is it not written? Is it not written, God gives us all things richly to enjoy? 1 Timothy 6:17. "But to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment." The King James Version. "But in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy." I was struck this morning when I woke up. I got to sleep in late because it's the Sabbath and it's a day of rest. And a nice, comfortable bed. And my puppy came and put his head on me. I got to see my beautiful wife who was happy. And I realized it was a time to rejoice of all the good things that God has given me in life. Not because I deserve them, not because I am good, because I earned them, but because God chose to have mercy on me. He gave me these things to richly enjoy. How could I not love? How could I not be in love with a God like that? He gives me so much. Who has given me so much more than I could ask or think. I sought after many women when I was younger, especially before I became a Christian, but I wouldn't trade all of them put together for the wife that God has given me now. He does more than I could ask or think. He gives me all things richly to enjoy. Now I will tell you to be on guard, because Satan will try and twist this and think that you have earned it, that you deserve it, therefore placing love on self or on things of this world instead of on one who actually gave it to you, the giver, God. Let us turn for wisdom on this to Deuteronomy chapter 8. Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, his statutes, which I command you today, least when you have eaten and are full, and have built beautiful houses and dwell in them. When your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, when your heart is lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, in which were fiery serpents and scorpions, and thirsty land where there was no water, brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, that he might humble you, that he might test you to do good in the end. Then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. Don't think that you have it because you earned it, because you deserved it. You couldn't take a single breath without God. You exist because he made you. And every good thing that you have is a gift from God. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. The book of James, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights. Again, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights. So let us not forget that there are appointed times and appointed seasons by God that we shall rejoice. Let us not forget that Jesus' first miracle was at a wedding, a time of rejoicing, a time of joy, a time of happiness. Also the Passover, a time we are called to remember good things that God has done for his people. Remember what Jesus said to his disciples. I eagerly desire to eat the Passover with you before I suffer. Jesus certainly went through times and periods of suffering. There's no debating that, but let's not forget that he also went through times of celebration and joy. He went to many dinner parties. He went to festivals. Again, his first miracle was at a wedding, a time of rejoicing. He turned water into wine to enhance a party, to enhance a wedding. The most common one of these that I can think of is Sabbath. People often just remember you're not supposed to work on Sabbath, but let us remember the fourth commandment. You shall remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. On it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor the stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. You're supposed to not work, you're supposed to rest. Time of resting and enjoying all the things that God has given you, he's blessed you with in that week. Set apart, special. Rest. Enjoy. Be thankful. If you're having trouble with this, an exercise that might help you is when you say your prayer for your meal, to give thanks for the food that God has given you. It's no less a miracle that God gave you food to eat today than that He rained down manna from heaven like we read about earlier. It's God that causes the grass to grow and the wheat to grow and the sun to shine. So don't think it's any less of a miracle, but try and remember and thank Him, not just for the food, but for all the good things. And I shouldn't say all, because we can't even comprehend all the good things that God does for us, but a list of all the good things. Thanking God for whatever that list is. Thanking Him for the food and for the health and for the dry roof you have over your head and for the heat and a nice, warm, comfortable house, or whatever that could be. Thank Him for the 1,000 other things you're forgetting to thank Him for that He has surely done for you that day. And don't forget to rejoice about the big things, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Rejoice because your names are written in heaven, because you have that victory, not because you had to earn it, not because you had to fight for it, not because you won the victory, because God has given you victory through the blood of His Son, Jesus Christ. Rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Whatever trials, whatever tribulations you go through on this earth, as Paul writes, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us." I don't often mention the other podcasts on this podcast, but I do one men's ministry called the Alpha Male Podcast. And there's one called Daily Bible Devotional, verses that in general I read every day. The very last one mentioned in there: ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full. Ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full. How many times is Jesus? This is in John chapter 16, but between chapters 14 and 16, several times just in those two chapters and all throughout the Gospels, Jesus tells us to pray. And here He says, ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full. Again, it's a commandment. You are called to rejoice. Remember all the parables of the persistent widow and the man coming and asking for bread. Because of their persistence, ask. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. Everyone who asks receives, and to he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. We see here, ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full. If it's a good, healthy thing that will actually bring joy, not pleasure, but joy, go to God and ask Him for it and believe that you'll receive it. He tells you to ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full. God wants joy for you. He wants happiness for you. He always did. He created a paradise and a garden for us. We screwed that up. You are called to rejoice. Look at the two extremes: hell, eternal separation from God, no rejoicing, no joy, torment, where Jesus says the fire is not quenched. Look at the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. He just wants a moment of relief, just a drip of water on his tongue. No joy. Look at heaven. The angels constantly worshiping and singing before God. No separation from God. Great joy. A joy I can't even comprehend. We can get small glimpses and small portions of it here. So rejoice. Be glad. Be glad for the little things and be glad for the big things, that one day He'll wipe away every tear from our eye. That our names are written in heaven. Rejoice. Thanks. Have a blessed day.